Hey everyone, good to see you again. Sorry it's been so long since I uploaded a video. I've been kind of busy. Although I did get back into the video swing earlier this week. I filmed with Allie Apperson on her channel, along with Linda, with Stacy Seabrook, with Awen, which was an amazing conversation. It is a 4-hour long conversation, but I guarantee you, if you're interested in Stephen, Avery, and Brendan Dassey's cases, it's something you're going to want to make time to watch. We talked about everything from phone calls to alternative suspects to blood spatter. It was an absolutely amazing conversation, and the link to that video is below, so you definitely want to check that out. Since rally, I've been extremely busy. 6 of my family members have birthdays between June 9th and July 23rd. I'm still in full birthday swing with everybody and doing all the little things that come along with that. But I've had notes for videos for a long time. But just Wednesday, I read an article about a Florida man who takes the cake of all Florida man stories that I've seen to date. Today we're going to talk about Zachary Wester. He is a former officer for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office in Florida. Mr. Wester created quite a stir in only his 3-year police officer career. It's just a hot mess, everything he did in that short period of time, and we're going to discuss it today. If you've caught me on anybody else's channel, you know that police misconduct absolutely makes my skin crawl. And anytime I see stories about it, it infuriates me. And this story is one that shows just how quickly anyone in this country can become a victim of police misconduct. It is absolutely mind-blowing what this guy did to innocent people. And I'm anxious to see what you guys think. If you've heard of this story, what your opinions are once I give you a quick rundown. In the description below, there are tons of links about his case. There's also the PDF for the arrest warrant, so you can read word for word why he was arrested on Wednesday, July 10th of 2019. He is facing over 50 counts of charges, ranging from felony charges to misdemeanor to racketeering. He got himself in a lot of trouble, and I'm really anxious to see where this leads to court. The attorneys for the state are saying they're not interested in a plea deal because he is a public employee. They said no plea deal, we're going to trial. Basically, they're saying we're nailing his ass to the wall. Wester graduated from the police academy in August of 2015 and went to work for the Liberty County Sheriff's Office that same month. It did not take long till rumors started to swirl of misconduct of a sexual nature. He was having, apparently, relationships with other officers' wives. He actually did cause a divorce. He was having inappropriate relations with the shoplifting suspect as well as other criminals. By May of 2006, only 9 months later, the sheriff went to the captain and said, "We need to get this guy out of here. He's bad news. He's got to go." Somehow it transpired that before he could be officially fired, he was allowed to submit a letter of resignation on May 6th of 2016 that said he is resigning as of that day. The captain accepted it, and off he went. Now, it's important to note that he went to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, where his father is employed. Apparently, Mr. Wester comes from a very long line of prominent police officers and a very tight police family in that community. On May 18th, 2016, he started working for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Again, it did not take long before there were rumors about sexual misconduct and all the same things he was being accused of at his previous employer. In January of 2017, he was the subject of an internal affairs investigation in regards to the sexual misconduct. He lied and said that one of the victims was an old college buddy, whereas that woman said she had never met him before until he arrested her. So that led, like I said, to an internal affairs investigation. A portion of that audio from that interview is linked below if you want to listen to it. It's just a 3-minute snippet where he is claiming victim and the usual. The Internal Affairs investigation found that his affair with the unnamed woman was, and I quote, unbecoming of an officer, and that he violated a policy forbidding associations with criminals. So within just a few months of being employed at the new sheriff's office, he was back at it. This time it resulted in the Internal Affairs investigation, and he was suspended with pay for 4 days. While the beginning of his career focused on misconduct more of a sexual nature, the latter half of his 3-year career focused more on him pulling over motorists for ridiculous reasons. For example, a dim taillight. Not a taillight that was out, a dim one. He would pull them over for ridiculous reasons, plant drugs in their car, arrest them on those drug charges, and throw them in jail, and then go out and find another victim. He also regularly turned off his body cam or positioned it in such a way that you could not see exactly what he was doing. In August of 2018, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement opened an investigation at the urging of the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Investigators have reviewed close to 300 cases involving him. 300! In a year and a half, 300 cases involving him. That just blows my mind. Charges have been dropped in nearly 120 cases involving former Officer Wester. A 120 cases in a year and a half. That absolutely blows my mind. That literally says to all of us, if you get stopped for any reason and the police search your car, you could be hauled off to jail if there is another cop in this country who is just like former Officer Wester. The arrest warrant that was issued on July 8th of 2019 is the result of his interactions with 11 different victims. These victims have sworn affidavits, they have given plenty of detail, and the body cam footage that he did record, investigators have found it supports the victim's statements. This investigation is still active. It is a possibility that there's more victims. I mean, here's the deal. The dude is 6'5". He's going to stick out in a crowd. If you are pulled over by a police officer who is 6'5", you're going to remember that guy. So for anybody that's in the Florida area or has been in the Florida area and has had interactions with him, it is imperative that you call the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Their phone number is 1-800-226-8574. They're still looking for tips in regards to former Officer Wester. They want as much information as they can possibly get because they don't want victims like this. They do not want people going around and thinking that every police officer in this country is just like him. My inclination is that based on all the cases that have had charges dropped, those people might eventually file their own set of complaints and be added to all of these 50-plus charges that are already against former Officer Wester. You'll see at the end of this video a portion of the press conference where authorities are saying they don't think there'll be any more victims, but essentially you never know. I mean, some people don't want to come out and complain about the police because of retaliation. We see it all over this country. Like it or not, this is probably not an isolated incident. The best part of this is, though, he got caught. And he got caught because he's a dipshit, and he accidentally forgot to turn off his body cam at one point and recorded himself planting the drugs in this woman's truck. And we'll get to that in a little bit. You can see it. And if you want to see the entire body cam footage from him and the assisting officer in that incident, the link for that is in the description below. So on Wednesday, July 10th, 2019, Zach Wester was arrested and charged with 52 counts, including, and I'm going to read this so I make sure I get it right, including racketeering, felony charges of official misconduct, false imprisonment, fabricating evidence, and possession of a controlled substance. He was also charged with misdemeanors, including perjury, possession of a controlled substance, and possession of drug paraphernalia. It's mind-blowing that out of 11 different complaints, there's 52 counts. So let's imagine those 300 cases that are being reviewed. If any more charges, I mean, this guy could easily rack up more charges. It's mind-blowing to me. In the cases listed in his arrest warrant, he followed a very similar MO throughout. He would find ridiculous reasons to pull over motorists. He would say that he smelled marijuana. He would also say that, regularly he has the K9 come to walk around vehicles. It's just a matter of public safety. He would then begin his own search of the car. He would return to his patrol car multiple times in these searches to retrieve his black gloves, which become a pretty big part of this case. He would go back to the car, back to his car, all this craziness, suddenly find drugs in victims' cars, trump up some drug charges, and haul him off to jail. This happened consistently throughout the cases listed in his arrest warrant, and I would assume it happened pretty consistently in other cases as well. He also had this really bad habit of turning off his body cam during these searches or positioning his body cam in such a way that you could not see what he was doing. The arrest warrant, which is linked below, lists all sorts of incidents and the contents of his car that was seized on August of 2018. Rumors have been swirling around that he was doing some pretty shady things, and eventually he was obviously investigated, and they decided, poof, you've got to go. He was put on administrative leave in August, and he was officially fired in September of 2018. The arrest warrant issued earlier this week lists the following incidents. On July 14, 2007, he pulled over Maria Turner. He told her that he pulled her over. His report said he pulled her over for an expired tag. He told Miss Turner that he pulled her over because as he was passing her on the opposite side of the road, so let's assume he's going north, she's going south, he said as he passed her vehicle, he smelled marijuana. So he made a U-turn, went back, and pulled her over. That's ridiculous. She consented to a search, and he found methamphetamine in her car fairly quickly. She, of course, was arrested and hauled off to jail. On October 2nd, 2017, Webster stopped Benjamin Bowling for inoperable lights and for crossing the center line of the highway. So his report said that the light over his license plate was inoperable. He told Mr. Bowling that the light wasn't out, it was only dim. Mr. Bowling reported that Webster went back to his car multiple times after he consented to a search. He said that Webster went back, got his black tactical gloves, set them on top of Mr. Bowling's car, searched the car, then put on his gloves, searched again, went back to his car multiple times, and all of a sudden he finds methamphetamine in Mr. Bowling's car. This turned into a huge problem for Mr. Bowling, ultimately resulting in him losing custody of his daughter because of former Officer Wester's actions. That is ridiculous. There's also reports of people losing their job because of these fake charges he created. People that worked in the medical field, as soon as you have a felony charge of any sort, poof, you're out. People lost their jobs. This guy lost his child over these ridiculous actions by this police officer. On October 16, 2017, he pulled over Derek Benefield for looking down while driving. Of course, then he found methamphetamines in Mr. Benefield's car, and Mr. Benefield went off to jail just like the rest of them. Now, this one is the kicker. On February 5th, 2018, Officer Wester pulled over Teresa Odom for faulty brake lights. He said that her brake lights would flash on and off. They would come on, come off Does that mean she was tapping the brakes, or were they absolutely faulty? Nobody really seems to know. So he pulls her over, does his normal deal. Oh, you know, I was worried about this. And he's really sweet talking her and just being the sweetest guy in the world. Well, this is the one where he really screwed up, because he forgot to turn off his body cam as he went back to his car, got his black tactical gloves, went back to her truck, and you can see at the beginning of the search in his left hand, you can see the little packet of methamphetamine. You can see him actually put it under the front seat, and then a little while later, as he goes to the passenger side, voila, he finds a little bag of meth and a metal spoon. Miss Odom is like freaking out and saying, no, that's what I ate my yogurt with, and that stuff is not mine. So this body cam footage is available in its entirety in the link below. It includes body cam footage from Officer Wester as well as the assisting officer, so you can actually see exactly how many times Wester moves from side to side of this little single cab truck and back to his own vehicle. I'm going to include a portion now, but I encourage you to watch the whole thing because it's absolutely ridiculous how smooth he thinks he is, but he's a moron.
Oh, Miss Odom.
It is yogurt, sir.
I know. Okay.
It's yogurt.
How about this, though?
That is not mine. No, sir.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you any
No,
direct,
sir.
I'm not going to ask you any direct questions. I'm going to read you your rights first, okay? So just hang out with Deputy Heike here.
What is it?
I have an idea. We're going to test it, though, okay? I don't know.
Oh,
but...
no, Teresa, you're going to jail.
Yep.
All right. Let me go. Bye. Did you give consent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So as you can see, that is an absolute, there's no denying that. He can have no excuse for what you see in that video. And to know that that happened over and over and over again. And to know that he was only an officer for 3 years. So his entire police career was just him being horrible to people. He was, like I said, he came from a prominent police family. Was he just simply trying to be, you know, one of the best cops because of his family? Or did he think that he was going to get away with it because of his family? I'm not really sure, but I find it absolutely disgusting that we can watch on video a police officer plant drug evidence in unsuspecting people's cars. Then we move on to March 24th of 2018. Officer Wester pulled over Maurice Elder and Cassandra Davis for failure to signal a lane change. Of course, Officer Wester's body cam wasn't functioning at the time of this stop. However, the assisting officer's was. And you can see in the assisting officer's video, apparently, Officer Wester putting something under the driver's seat of the car. Again, both of them hauled off to jail, drug charges, the whole 9 yards. Ridiculous. Just a couple weeks later, on April 18th of 2018, he pulled over Joshua Emanuel. This one's actually really good. He pulled him over, does this whole deal. He said he pulled him over because it showed that the registered owner of the vehicle had a suspended license. So he pulled him over, does the whole deal, says, "Do you consent to let me search your car?" "Sure, no problem." So he searches Mr. Emanuel's car, finds methamphetamine, comes back, tells him, arrest him, does the whole deal. Well, in the meantime, while Wester's over there doing all of his crap, the assisting officer and Emanuel are talking, and they realize that somehow they know each other. They're talking about this person and that person, and Somehow it comes out that Emmanuel's family, his mother works for two prominent attorneys in the area, and his dad works at the local federal prison. So suddenly Wester's demeanor suddenly changes, because obviously this could really bring his house of cards down. His attitude changes, and he tells Mr. Emmanuel that he will write the report to make sure to say that the drugs belong to another individual and not Mr. Emmanuel. How convenient. So he feared these people. He feared the lawyers. He feared the guy who worked at the prison, because obviously that's law enforcement background. So they're connected. He wanted no part in that. So suddenly all that just kind of washed away. On April 17th, again, just a couple weeks later, he stopped Steve Vann for crossing the double yellow line. This is another one that we actually have footage of, and it's linked in the description below. Again, his recording didn't start till 20 minutes into the stop, after he found the methamphetamine and was ready to start arresting Mr. Vann on these trumped up charges. So let's watch a little portion of that, and you can see how Mr. Vann is freaking out. Another thing that Officer Wester did was, as he would run backgrounds, he would find specific people who had previous drug charges. So he could make it look like, oh, they're just reoffending. So he was very calculated in his crap, but unfortunately he screwed up enough times that people were catching on, and now his ass is in jail.
Look, man, you're going to go to jail today for possession of methamphetamine, okay? It was in your vehicle right there at the center console. All right?
Come on, man. Please.
I don't have much discretion with a felony charge, buddy. I don't have much discretion with that, man.
Dude, man, my mom is going to work. Oh, man, dude, I'm serious, dude. Anything. What you want me to do, man?
Listen, man. I don't have discretion with felonies, okay?
Hey, man, if I know that shit was in there, you think I'd tell you go here and search, man? Come on, man, really?
People still do sometimes, and that's why I was getting around to the fact, did you see the person that was with you? Were they using or shooting up or smoking while they were in the car? Because whenever I ask you that, you kind of put your head down and look away. It makes me kind of think that maybe, yeah.
No, man,
I'm
telling you, man, God.
Okay. All right, man, go ahead and put your hands behind your back for me.
Can I smoke a cigarette, please? Please?
Just hang tight right there. Let me explain something, man. Go ahead and get you a cigarette. The company you keep sometimes makes you turn into a, okay?
I'm telling everybody to stay away from me, too.
Okay.
I mean, I feel for Mr. Vann. That guy is a second from tears, and he wants no part in this. It sounds to me like he's got his life back together. He's clean. He's doing all the right things to get back on track. And Officer Wester's just, he doesn't care. He's willing to just throw him away like he's yesterday's trash. And it's a sad, sad thing that this just continues to happen. And no, we're not done yet. On May 5th, 2018, again, just a couple weeks later, Wester stopped Trevor Day and Kimberly Wood for traveling without headlights or taillights. Mr. Day immediately told him, hey, we smoked weed early in the day. There's probably a few roaches in the car. I don't want no trouble. I'm just coming clean. Officer Wester's like, oh, that's no big deal. I'm not going to stop you for that. I'm not going to hold you for that. It's just a little weed, no biggie. So he looks like he's just going to be like, I ain't got time for this, whatever. So, of course, Officer Wester searches the car, finds the methamphetamine, wants to haul them all off to jail, which he does. Mr. Day reports that Officer Wester went back and forth to his car several times during the search. Again, his body cam was turned off while he found the drugs in the car. And Mr. Day also reports that Officer Wester went back and forth to his patrol car several times during this search. The kicker to this one is that the previous year in October of 2017, the passenger in this car, Kimberly Wood, had an experience with Officer Wester. He had pulled her over, did the same deal. I smell marijuana. I need to search your car. She says, fine, search my car. So he detains her in the back of his police car. There's no assisting officer on this one. She's detained in the back of the car. He's going back and forth doing his normal deal. All of a sudden, he comes back to the patrol car with 2 pills. And he says, what are these? She's like, hell, I don't know. I've never seen those before. So after this long ordeal, and he puts the fear of God in her, he's finally like, oh, you know what? You're too pretty to go to jail, and lets her go. So I guess he didn't have time to write all the arrest reports that day or something, or he was just in a good mood. But knowing that she had a previous experience with him, she's probably not the only one. He's obviously a repeat offender and seems to point out specific types of victims for his crime. This one just absolutely blows my mind. And on June 7th of 2018, he pulls over Jeremy and Kimberly Hazelwood. They have their kids in the car. He pulls them over because the database says they don't have insurance. So he's doing the whole deal with them, you know, telling them, I smell this in the car. I'm going to have the canine come and walk around your car. Apparently the body cam footage shows him, the body cam footage of the assisting officer shows him standing at the driver's side door, just standing there, leaning on it. And at some point, his hands are going in and out of the car. In and out of the car, they're moving, you know, he's fidgety, whatever the hell he's doing. Next thing you know, the canine comes, walks around the car, and wouldn't you know it, canine alerts at the driver's side door. Everybody out of the car, puts Mr. and Mrs. Hazelwood out on the curb, along with their children, search the car. As Officer Wester is searching the car, his body cam is arranged in such a way you can't really see what he's doing, but it's clear that he's focusing on an Excedrin bottle. He is really interested in this. He moves it out of the line of vision of his body cam. He sets it on, like, this Excedrin bottle is flying all over the place. He is really interested in it. Suddenly, wouldn't you know it, the Excedrin bottle tests positive for methamphetamine. Mr. and Mrs. Hazelwood are like, no way, like nothing. Mr. Wester, Officer Wester, is so classy as to walk up to Jeremy Hazelwood and say, I'm arresting your wife on suspicion, like, of her having the meth, that's her Excedrin bottle, because her face is sunk in and she has bad teeth. So basically, Officer Wester just walked up to this woman's husband and said, your wife looks like a meth head, so I'm going to arrest her. And Mr. Hazelwood was like, no, that's just her face. Like, that's what she looks like. She is, like, we don't do drugs. So then, after arresting her, his initial report says that she was touching the bag that his initial report said she was near the bag that the Excedrin bottle was in. Just near it. As his report evolved, then she was touching it. Then she was trying to hide it. So he was trying to make the narrative fit his crock of crap to say that, yeah, that whatever was in that bottle belongs to her. She was interested in it. She was trying to hide it. And then, a couple months later, he pulls over Mr. Hazelwood again and says, oh, where's Kimberly? With a grin on his face, as if he's trying to perpetuate an argument, have the opportunity to plant more drugs. Who the hell knows? But he just is a vile, horrible human being to pull this guy over again and joke about where's your wife, knowing full well that her ass is sitting in jail because of his crap. So on August 1st, 2018, Officer Wester was finally placed on administrative suspension. His car was seized at that time and a preliminary search was done. On September 6th of 2016, Internal Affairs came in and did a very deep search of his car, and they located unsecured narcotics and drug paraphernalia. The black tactical gloves that were so important in all of these stops were kept in the console of his car. And if you recall the few stories I told, but it was in every story, he went back and got these gloves and then returned to victims' vehicles. Inside these gloves, in one glove, was a little baggie of meth. How convenient. And in the other glove was an unused field test. So he had the opportunity to plant meth out of the one glove and then trump up or fake the test results in the other glove. In the trunk of his patrol car, Internal Affairs found meth and marijuana. According to the warrant, this is everything that was found in the car. And I have to read it because it's a lot. So this is what they found. 10 baggies of meth, 5 baggies of weed, 42 items of paraphernalia, including rolling papers and a Crown Royal bag with marijuana residue. They found 36 baggies of various sizes, 1 pipe, 1 syringe, 1 pill bottle, 2 containers, and 2 bags with insufficient amount of substance to be identified. So if we just go back 1 second, he's got 10 baggies of meth and 5 baggies of marijuana, which means, and the baggie of meth that is in his tactical glove. So if we're thinking ahead here in his planning, he is prepared to create 16 more victims solely based on the baggies prepared in his trunk. 16. I mean, and only 11 victims are named in this warrant. So was he always that prepared? Because it seems to me like he was. So I'm very interested to see where this case goes. Like I said earlier, and what I'm getting ready to show you is that attorneys and Internal Affairs are not interested in a plea deal. They want to take him to court. He's a public employee. There needs to be a trial for this. And I'm very anxious to see where that goes. I'm curious to know if there's any other victims that are going to come forward and file their own set of charges against him. This is just mind-blowing to me. You know, police misconduct pisses me off for various reasons. I've had a personal experience in my own life with police misconduct and excessive force, and I have no tolerance. I understand that not every cop is bad. I get that. But to see situations like this, to where cops have the ability to turn anybody they want to into a criminal. Like today when I take my son shopping, we could get pulled over and one of us could end up in jail just because a cop feels like it. That is a sad situation. And I'm very thankful that this guy has been caught and that people stood up and said, no, this is crap. I'm not dealing with this. You're screwing with my life. Like you can read the arrest warrant below. The guy lost his kid. People lost their jobs because of this guy and him thinking that his badge gives him more rights than everybody else. That is ridiculous to me. Those people will never get that back because this guy's being charged and those cases are being dropped against people. They still have felony arrests on their record. Their record is not being expunged. Those arrests still exist. So how they can get all that expunged, I'm curious to see, because having a felony arrest on your record screws the rest of your life. Because any employer that sees that is like, well, there's bad news. And how many times do people say, oh, it wasn't my fault? But in this instance, it's not these people's fault. They're being made victims because this guy obviously had nothing better to do. And he obviously got some sort of enjoyment out of it. So, all right, that's enough of my soapbox. I could go on for days with my soapbox. So, thumbs up if you guys want to see more police misconduct, because I know stories from all over the country. This one has grabbed my attention because this guy was actually arrested, which is something you don't often see with police officers. They're not held accountable. Grand juries often say, oh, there's not enough evidence. Well, I'm thankful that in this instance, there is enough evidence, and hopefully this guy gets his ass nailed to the wall. I'm going to leave you guys with a portion of the press conference from the other day talking about what is going on with this case, what they've investigated, and what they plan to do going forward. Also, check out the links below. There's the PDF link for his arrest warrant. There is the full video of him and Teresa Odom. There's the partial body cam footage that he recorded of him and Steve Vann. And there's a lot of other links in regards to his activity. There's articles. There's the link to the FLDE website that lists the 800 number if you have more information about this officer and any of his activities. Okay, so I'm officially wrapping it up now. No more soapbox, no more anything. You guys have a great day. Hit thumbs up, hit subscribe. Make sure you share this video, because if this cop has other victims, they need to contact the proper authorities and make sure that every victim that this guy created is receiving justice. This guy could easily have more victims. In the first county he worked for, so far they haven't found any sort of activity that resembles what he did in Jackson County, but that doesn't mean it's not there. It's possible that people haven't come forward and said, hey, when I said it, that wasn't mine, I meant it. So let's make sure we spread this around, raise awareness, make sure that this guy gets what's coming to him. Karma is a bitch, and it's definitely heading this way.
Jackson County Sheriff's deputy has been arrested on several felony charges. He's accused of planting drugs on people during traffic stops and then taking them into custody. WTXL ABC 27's Valerie Mills joins us live in Jackson County, where we just heard from investigators. And Val, what do we know so far?
Ava, 26-year-old Zach Wester was arrested earlier today by FLDE agents in Wakulla County. He's being held in the Wakulla jail without bail after the Jackson County Sheriff's Office requested an investigation into allegations of misconduct last August. According to FLDE, they found Wester would regularly pull over drivers in Jackson County for traffic stops, plant drugs in their cars, and haul them to jail on fake charges. Around 300 cases involving Wester have been reviewed, and FLDE says there's no question that his actions put innocent people in jail. Investigators add Wester would tailor his body camera footage to hide his crimes, but people are coming forward about their interactions with him.
There are 11 people that have testified that he planted drugs on them because of the nature of the charges and the fact that he was a public employee. The investigation had progressed to the point where it was appropriate to make an arrest at this time, even though the investigation was not complete.
Wester is facing charges of racketeering, official misconduct, fabricating evidence, possession of a controlled substance, and false imprisonment. Investigators say at this point there's no indication that Wester was using drugs or where he was getting them from. He's set to make his first appearance tomorrow at 11 a.m. in front of a Wakulla County judge. Live in Jackson County, Valerie Mills, WTXL ABC 27.
A former Jackson County Sheriff's deputy is now behind bars after allegedly planting drugs in vehicles during traffic stops. News Channel 7's Blake Brannon has more on what led to Zachary Wester's arrest.
In August of 2018, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office asked the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to look into Jackson County Deputy Zachary Wester after they believed he was planting drugs inside vehicles and arresting the drivers on made-up drug charges.
This is not something that we condone. We're not proud of it, but it is the facts that we're dealing with.
Wester was fired from the sheriff's office in September, and according to the FLDE, after an extensive investigation, Wester was arrested Wednesday morning in Crawfordville on 52 counts, including racketeering, fabricating evidence, and false imprisonment. But the investigation continues.
FLDE has assigned a team of 10 special agents, 2 crime intelligence analysts, who have logged over 1,400 hours on this case already. And it's still ongoing even today.
The First Judicial Circuit of Florida out of Pensacola will lead the prosecution, and state attorney's office officials say despite the active investigation, they believe they're ready to go to court.
It's been the policy of my office that we do not plea bargain these type of cases. We believe they're very serious, and we expect to proceed, based on my review of the matter, we expect to proceed to the trial of these cases.
In September, the state attorney's office dropped 119 cases against the people Wester allegedly planted drugs on, but sheriff's officials did want to thank them for their patience.
There were some things that came through, such as the storm, that delayed some of this, but I want to thank the public for being there and patiently waiting.
In Marianna, Blake Brandon, News Channel 7.
Now, the state attorney's office says they do not believe any other deputies or Jackson County personnel were involved with Wester. Wester will make his first appearance in Wakulla and Jackson counties over the next few days.
We're gonna go ahead and, hey look man, like I told you the reason for my traffic stop, okay? I'm still not finding anything even with the VIN number, all right? So I'm waiting on dispatch just kind of clarify some stuff for me. You know, it's possible it could just be an error from whenever you purchase the vehicle. It could be.
Here's all the purchase information right here.
Okay.
Morgan's Auto.
Yeah. Okay. And you've not been pulled over or anything? No? Okay. Y'all just hang tight.
Did you request a QH?
Yeah. Yes, sir, I did.
How are you today?
I'm good, sir. How are you? Where did she go to, man?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. She was just standing over here. But, look in the back seat.
Uh-huh.
Ma'am, if you don't mind just standing right there.
Yeah, alright.
What were you saying about that? Yeah, and I mean, right, and then for her, man, whenever I walked up, she was, man, she may have been messing around with her purse, I don't know, she was making some movements there at the bottom. I'll start on this side, I guess.
Here's, this is about all I can find, man.
You got your
Tag fees, $200.
Go ahead. Okay.
I don't know.
Man, I like to hum a tune in case something ever goes in front of the jury, you know. So they're not just sitting somewhere just.
So it's like elevator music.
So they're not just sitting somewhere chilling, hanging out. What we got there, my friend? Look at there. All right. Both of y'all are just gonna be detained at this time, okay? I can undetain you. I just can't unarrest you.
What the hell?
All right, I'll explain that in just a minute, man. Just put your hands behind your back for me. You can keep that cigarette in your mouth if you want to. I ain't gonna make you just spit your cigarette out.
We found some stuff in the car. We'll tell you in just a second.
Okay. You can put your cigarette in your mouth if you want to. Just put your hands behind your back.
We have a female deputy search you in your purse. She's going to find anything concealed on you and take you to the jail. When you go to the last part, they're going to find anything on you? You sure?
2554. I have 2 detained at this time.
He can show you. Sure? Anybody on probation? DUI?
I'll read all y'all's rights in a minute, okay? But y'all asked what I found, and just hang on.
That's bullshit.
What is that? You know what's funny, Mr. Pierce? The second time we were driving the car and we were straight with you, and we found dope within reach of you, and you're gonna probably say it's hers, but I'm just telling you, all your stuff in there, I'm just telling you, y'all both have signs of use, and it's nothing against you, right? Thinking you're bad people, but y'all both have like I don't have a drug test yet. I don't do that. That ain't what we do on the side of the road.
Hey, buddy.
My buddy.
Little.
Man, I'm not. I'll take a drug test.
This little container with some ice in it.
I'm not on it.
That is no idea.
Sorry, guys.
Inside of it right here, okay?
Check fingerprints on that bottle.
Yeah, we will, man.
I do not do drugs. I do not do drugs.
I promise you that. I'll be honest, back in the day, back in 2001, I may have done
But you in this
No, it was right here.
right here.
Right here.
For my camera, right there. Okay.
Under this, when I slid the seat, it was within.
So it would have been for a driver to just.
The driver to take it, conceal it back there like that, not the passenger.
That's fine, man.
She would have had to turn all the way around to get it under that.
Yeah. No problem.
Sitting pretty much in the open under there.
Yeah. Just right here.
It's on my body.
Well, that's all we need there, buddy. Ooh. Interesting, just a little bit.
Well, Brock, it looks like me and you can run the show. We're the most senior two officers, I believe. It's 10-8. Yeah, man, Jack, we got this. Go ahead and help him out. Who's Asher Glenn, Shelly Simpson Jr., Simpson Jr., Everett Baggett, Chris Spears.
They're all pillars.
Troy Deese, John Cloud. Do you know those names?
I'm status 10. I mean, I've heard of them just working over in D-Zone, man, but
I'm going to run some of these names real quick.
that's fine, buddy.
You think?
Yeah. Check it out and see.
Well, I was eating chicken nuggets.
Well, I'm sorry about messing up your chicken nugget eating now, buddy.
Well, it was kind of hot. I needed to let it cool off anyway. Rolf, you can help him? I'm going to sit in the truck for a second. I'll just lean up right there.
Man, if it gets any colder, I'm going to have to put my jacket on.
I know. Yeah.